All right, what's going on? What's going on? Welcome, 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 guys. Super excited to be here for another edition of Weekly Market Outlook. Hope you guys have had an amazing weekend, a great 4th of July if you're out here in the US. As you can tell, I got like a little bit of a different background going on because I just moved out to Miami. So still finishing the office and whatnot, but um, yeah, man, just grateful to be back on the East Coast and to connect with you guys for a brand new month of trading. We just wrapped up the first week of July, which was great, at least on my end. And yeah, man, just want to get on here and prep us for the week as always. Kind of get us situated with what's going on with NAS and a couple different markets that we like to look at. But appreciate everybody who's here. George, Afton, Steve, oh, what's good, bro? All right, all right, all right. So yeah, man, without further ado, we're gonna get straight into it as people continue to pour into here from all the chats and whatnot. But yeah, man, it was an 18-hour drive from Texas to Miami, and we saw fireworks popping along the way. It was crazy, and I didn't really do anything these last like 48 hours except just like unbox stuff, receive new furniture. You know how that goes. So haven't looked at charts, haven't really done anything related to trading or anything, just kind of situating myself. But here we go. So we're gonna dive straight into NAS. All right, guys, waste no time here. First and foremost, as far as like news goes, we do have a summit today and tomorrow. So BRICS, for the people that don't know what BRICS is, okay, this is a it's like it's an organization basically like NATO. So you guys probably know NATO. You know, that's just like a force of different countries coming together, right? But BRICS is basically Brazil, Russia, China, Africa, or South Africa. They've kind of put themselves together in like a coalition, basically. So they're doing meetings now, and you know, this is obviously important in general for the markets. Um, but you know, for trading Nasdaq, we'll see how that affects things. As far as news that we actually gotta pay attention to more than anything, we have FOMC coming up this week. Let me actually finally change this to Eastern time since we are officially on the East Coast. Where is it? Here we go. So FOMC is gonna be the big one on 2 p.m. on Wednesday, and then we have unemployment claims in the AM on Thursday. So these two are going to be the major events that we want to pay attention to. FOMC on Wednesday, and then unemployment claims on Thursday. All right, guys, give me 1 sec. All right. All right. So as I was saying, these are the news events that we want to pay attention to. All right. So pretty much Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, like Monday, Tuesday is probably not going to be anything. We're probably not gonna get any like unexpected things or like weird type of movements. It's probably gonna be pretty straightforward movements. Um, again, Wednesday is really where things should start to pick up a little bit. All right, so that's as far as fundamentals and the news goes and everything like that. As far as where we're at for NAS, we're gonna be paying attention to this major price point of 23,000. 23,000 is going to be super important. I've been talking about, you know, just kind of let me change this to black here. The importance of the psychological whole numbers that we're trading. Okay. There, wait, two. Woof. All right. So psychological whole numbers are something that, especially when we're heading into all-time high territories, is something that I start to lean into a little bit more. It's always something that we pay attention to in general, but especially when we're looking at like where can we expect price to get to, institutions that drive price are always going to gravitate towards very clean numbers. Like if we pay attention to even the last major area that price kind of like created this support level, right? Where we started seeing price really respect here. This is at 22,400. Okay. So very similar to like 23,000, where it's like a clean, even number. This isn't just me having like OCD or anything silly like that, but uh like for big transactions and big movements in the markets, clean numbers like that definitely play a part in anticipating where we can go and respect off of, and things of that nature. So definitely pay attention to 23,000 going forward as far as like where we can expect price to get to next. There's a chance that we can kind of respect this last area of demand here where we basically left off on Friday. So we saw the sensitivity around this area as a potential place that we could use to take us to 23,000. Honestly though, just kind of me thinking like where we're probably gonna go. And obviously like predictions don't really mean anything. It's all about, it's all about, reacting and responding to what the market actually tells us. So I don't like to make predictions or to like trade what I think. I want to trade what I see, right? And again, this is a potential area where we've seen some reactions. And so in reality, if we're just looking at market structure, right? When we have that last little pullback area that creates the expansion, right? That's a demand zone. Price usually, if it gravitates towards there, we can go and make a new high, right? So that's essentially what you're seeing here, right? Last pullback before an expansion, price comes back into there and makes a new high, right? That's kind of the idea of this and this, right? However, personally, I think there's a good chance that if we're gonna come lower, we're gonna end up coming down to here. All right. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. This is where price manipulated to the downside that grabbed all of this liquidity down here that we have marked there as well. And really from that point where we ended up grabbing those equal lows, price used that as like the springboard to go and put in this new high in the market. So in reality, this is a demand area, but it's like mid-move, right? It's not the extreme low to the extreme high. This is like in the middle, right? And I've told you guys before, if we're dealing in a certain range, if we have like a clearly defined low and high in the market, we want to try to get price to come into the bottom third of a range, get into deep discounted areas to get the ideal entries that really take us to like where we want it to go. So either price can, and it doesn't have to do that, it could respect right off of here, but I think price can get down to here. And if we do, then that's going to be the area that will probably end up seeing price use as the springboard to get to 23,000. So it's either basically now or we're going to come down a little bit lower. Now, I'll show you on the time frames a couple different reasons why I have this marked up. First of all, we can also see that we have fair value gaps here. So these little orange rectangles right here. Okay. This is a very important concept that I use to kind of, look at where price may want to get to. Price is always going to rebalance and or seek liquidity, right? Seeking liquidity is basically how we saw price manipulate these lows. So we were seeking that liquidity and then price moved, right? A little bit, not as much, but really we had like these highs. Price ends up taking out these highs and now it's kind of retracing, right? So once we take liquidity, whether it's buy side, right, liquidity on the upside, or we take sell side liquidity, which is the liquidity on the downside, those are going to be the catalysts that drive price down and drive price up once the liquidity is taken. So liquidity is the main thing that we need to pay attention to as to why price wants to go somewhere. However, these fair value gaps also play a major role to rebalance price. So there's a lot of reason for price to want to come down to here because you have two of the elements together. You have the manipulation liquidity that took place, and then you have the imbalance or the fair value gaps that were left behind from that. And usually the fair value gaps come hand in hand with a liquidity grab or fake out, because usually after a fake out, you're going to have a very strong move, and strong moves create big candles that leave those fair value gaps. So it all works together. So all in all, again, this is a potential area for where we're gonna see price react from, but then there's a lot of reason for price to want to come down to here to fulfill this fair value gap, and then to kind of mitigate that manipulation that we had here. And we can see that more clearly on the 2-hour time frame. So on the 2-hour time frame is where we see that wick that I like to look for as far as like identifying manipulation, right? So these type of wicks right here, where you see price use that wick to drive price down, fake out all of these lows, and then that candle ends up closing bullish and creating this massive move. Okay. So look, again, that big fair value gap we saw on Friday, price basically come down and fill that. Now we still have this big one down here, and then we have that manipulation wick down here. So it makes a lot of sense eventually to get to 23, but I think first we're going to want to see price basically retrace, again, from this extreme low to this high, retrace into filling in the gaps and to retrace the manipulation down here, and then use that to continue higher. All right. So, with that said, can we take a trade up here? Yes. I'd rather focus on letting price sell off something like this and then taking it down to here. And then a secondary opportunity later will be once we come into this area looking for opportunities to take it up. So that's kind of like my whole thought process right now. Again, if we look at the range, so I'm going to pull a Fibonacci from this low all the way to the high. Okay. And we're gonna look at it with a like a Fibonacci that measures like the range into threes, right? So top 33%, bottom 33%, and then the middle 33%, right? So we're dividing this range from the high and the low into thirds, right? Into three. So the upper third, the middle third, and then the bottom third. So in general, this is really important. I talk about this on my live sessions all the time. And for those who aren't in Akashex or aren't a part of my live sessions throughout the week and everything, this is really just like a taste of, like what I talk about and what we do. So you're getting a lot of good sauce on these Sunday market outlooks, to be honest with you. It's just being able to do that more times a week while we're actually live trading that I think is, the most valuable part of being a member of our community. But nonetheless, again, this is a concept that I talk about. So in general, if we have a range, right? So I'm gonna, draw this range. So we have this low, and then we have this high. So we have this high, we have this low. Okay. And price starts to move down something like this. So we're working within the range of this high and this low. So if we pull a Fibonacci from that high and that low, we see that we divide the range now into this third, the middle third, and then the top third. Okay, so if we're playing within this range, you always want to try to buy low, sell high. So if I know that this high is like pretty well established and this low is established, obviously, obviously we can go and make a new high, right? That's the thing. So I'm not saying it can't keep going, but if we have a conviction that this high is going to be holding at least for a while, then we want to try to sell in the top third of the range. We want to be looking for sell opportunities that go and take price down at minimum into the middle, but ideally into like the lower part of the range. Okay. So what that manifests into more or less is like, using our actual strategy and our other confirmations to look for like sells, for example, something like this. And then we're taking price down to like here. Okay. And basically, boom, you enter a trade. Wow. Make profit, right? Okay. Now, the other part of that is letting price eventually come down into the bottom part of the range and start shifting back up. And that starts to look for buy opportunities, right? Where we start buying the lower part of the range. And then we start looking to take price back up to make a new high, right? Because we're overall in an uptrend right now. And like 23,000 is up here, right? So the idea is to take it to a new high and then get to 23,000. Okay, so this is how we're playing, understanding the ranges, the upper third, bottom third, all that stuff. So that's the diagram version of that, but here's the actual chart and real markets looking at the same thing, right? So the upper third of the range is this area that we're seeing here. We'll mark this like red, for example. Okay. And so in that area, you know, in general, right, we want to be selling up in this area to take us down to here. Okay. So for example, if we sell somewhere up in the upper third of the range, I usually use like a 500 pip stop loss. But again, this is with my specific strategy. So it's not just like, oh, you know, we're selling the upper third of the range. Like usually you want to have your stop loss cover the range, but that's really wide. That's a really big stop loss. We want to try to have our stop loss be between like 500 and 1,000 at least, right? But to give you an idea, like even, you know, like a 700 pip stop loss, for example, taking us down to the range, like the bottom part of the range is already like a 2.4 to 1 risk to reward ratio, which is not bad. But again, the idea is that we want to try to look for, you know, in this area with our other confirmations, we want to see price start to shift down and form something like that to take it lower. And then we have the bottom third of the range, which is this part. Okay. And in this area, we want to be looking for price to basically start getting out of there. Okay. So this is the idea of playing in the range. Okay. So high, low, buy low, sell high. Okay. And so we'll be looking for opportunities depending how the market opens. Where, you know, if we're still hanging around this upper third of the market by the time that we open, because for all I know, the market gaps down like crazy or something is very possible. But if it like stays, like if it stays around somewhere in here, then I'd want to be looking for my strategy to start activating where we start breaking below like Asia and something like this, right? So it just really depends now how the market opens and how London session plays out. But in general, you know, this is the idea for these trades is looking for sells up here, looking for buys down here. And we'll play it depending on how we get that set up. So yeah, if you're like newer, obviously it's hard to kind of piece all these things together. That's why it's so important if you are a student, you know, of mine in the mentorship program in Akashex, that we want to, you know, watch all of my pre-recorded content where I talk about all of these different vocabulary words such as fair value gaps, liquidity, manipulation, market structure, all the stuff that I'm saying. And if you're somebody that's on the sidelines, obviously maybe you know some of these terms, maybe you don't. Again, the most value is through the platform where you guys are able to like see me break down these trades week in and week out. I'm gonna check the chat, see if you guys got any questions or whatever's on your mind. And then I'll show you guys the 2 trades that we took last week. Just to show you that you don't even need to take that many trades. I only really sent out 2 and both of them hit and they were like crazy good trades. So I want to showcase that a little bit and then we'll pretty much be wrapped up. All right. All right, cool. So yeah, if you guys do have questions, you could put it in the chat. If not, cool. And I appreciate you guys who are new to the channel that just subscribed. I know we jumped a good like 20-30 people since I posted this link, so appreciate you for subbing to the channel as well. But yeah, let me just show you guys over the last week the 2 trades that we took. I'm gonna open up this Telegram chat here real quick. So we go here to our section of the private mentorship chats. And essentially we had this trade alert, okay? And then we had this trade alert here. I don't even think that was the aftermath of the whole thing. Let me see if I got it here. Okay, here we go. So basically it was these two setups. So I'll show you guys again on the charts here. Wait. So essentially we had sells from sells from 22,700 area. Okay. And then we ended up having the buys from here. So these were the only two trades that we called, and they were both winners, and they were both great winners. For me, this is what like pinnacle trading is, in my opinion, of like how I personally would like to trade. Is I don't want to be taking like 2-3 trades a day, 5 days a week. It's just not my style. I'd rather be able to try to understand the direction of the day for NASDAQ and be able to catch a good risk to reward setup where I can literally be executing one position, hitting a good risk to reward of, double, triple, quadruple my risk, exit that position, and that's it. Just one entry, one asset class, one strategy, in and out within a couple hours, sometimes even less. And that's it. At the end of the day, it's about having more capital and leveraging that for a good strategy than trying to flip accounts by taking a bunch of trades. Again, I've done that, and if you do that and you like that, perfect. I just want to try to create a style of trading that's like less stressful and that I don't have to be so active for me to catch good reward from the market. But yeah, these were the two setups. Again, some people get used to, taking like so many trades a day because it's like all they know, or I don't know, they may not know any better, or they just like trading a lot because they just actually look at trading to be a fun thing more than like a money making thing sometimes. It really just depends, to each their own. But yeah, man, I like to be able to find a handful of setups a week, execute them, be in and out, and that's it. And so on the, Akash's live sessions and everything, I talked about why we took these, specific trades and whether you even understood why these worked or not. Obviously with the alerts that we send out through the platform, you guys are able to basically just follow my lead if you decide to take these opportunities with me. Both of them were called out on our app. So yeah, pretty much, to give you an idea, each of them went for a 4x of your risk. So on each setup, you could have risked 100 to make 400, right? If you have a funded account of like even a 2000, a 200K account, that's really where things get interesting. Risking 2 grand on that 200K account to make 8 grand 2 times, basically a total of 16 grand in potential profit from just basically making 8K and 8K on those two different setups, risking 1% of your account on both of those setups, right? So risking 2 to make 8 twice, right? So if you can make, again, this is not something that is easy to do. I'm not saying you're gonna do it. I'm not even saying that the next trade I call is gonna do the same thing. But the reality is, if you have proper capital, like a 200K funded, that you can get with something like TradexMastery, right? Or partners and sponsors of these live sessions. That's a way for you guys to leverage that and be able to still trade conservatively where you're risking like 1%, making a risk of 2K, and then you're still able to pull 8K on these type of setups each. Like when you start to really think about it that way, it's really insane what you could do with trading, but you got to have the right approach and have the right capital. If you have capital and the right approach, you don't need to be trading like crazy, and you can still make pretty decent money, I think. So yeah, just wanted to show you guys those setups. If you guys didn't take them, or if you guys are not part of the program, then obviously that's a little bit of what you guys can expect there. But yeah, we look to continue that heading into this week. To keep rolling in July. So again, right now I think we'll probably get like short-term bounces off of this to eventually come down into this area, and then long-term come off like that. Obviously, this is just a rough projection, and things can change as the market opens, but just giving you my thoughts pre-market open of what I expect. That's where I'm at right now, and we'll see. All right, cool. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much a summary of everything. Crypto is doing pretty well right now. It's gonna be interesting to see if Bitcoin makes new all-time highs again. But I don't really have much I want to talk about when it comes to that. Again, my mind has really been like off the charts for a while, so just gonna keep it simple right now. Look for some good setups heading into tomorrow to start the week. And yeah, keep it rolling. This week's gonna be really fun because we actually have our Fort Lauderdale event. So for anybody that might be in the South Florida area, this event is going to take place on Saturday. Hold on. So this is our event right here, Breaking Boundaries. It's gonna be on July 12th in Fort Lauderdale. So I mean, that's literally where I'm at right now. So I got a very short drive to get to the event, maybe like 15 minutes. So excited to be there. I know some of you guys are already committed to be there. This is gonna be a super, super, super great event. You're gonna have, a lot of powerful speakers as far as entrepreneurs, traders, leaders, giving a lot of value. It's a great way to network. Honestly, for me, I feel like the only reason why I'm able to get to where I get to is because of the connections I've made. Whether it's people that follow me that trade with me, whether it's the people that have put me in position to give me a platform and power and a voice in order to educate and influence people. Whatever the case is, it always stems from who you know, right? So yes, what we know, like trading, is an amazing thing, but who you know is always more powerful. I'm gonna say that forever because I've just lived it over and over. So I'm telling you guys, come out if you can. Honestly, everybody kind of can. It's just a matter of like, how serious are you? You know what I mean? Like for me, I never miss events if I can get there. Basically always. And again, I think that's a big thing of what's helped me continue to advance year after year. It's just always putting myself in the room with the best, right? I always want to be the brokest in the room and the person that has the least knowledge in the room. Because the minute that you make the most money or think you know more than everybody else that's in your circle or who you're hanging out with or who you're around every day, you're in a bad spot. I want to be uncomfortable. I want to feel like I'm not doing nearly enough as I possibly can around people that are just doing really well or are further along in the journey. These are the type of events that you can do that at. So again, I'll be there. It's gonna be a great event. We also have some Airbnb stuff going on the day before. If you know, you know, then you guys know the address. You guys know how to get there as well. That's more private. It's gonna be cool, but this is definitely open. If you guys don't know how to get tickets, again, this is the website for you guys to go and get your tickets. See if I drop it in here. Okay, cool. So I see some of you guys already in the chat saying that you're gonna be there, so that's super cool. Yeah, man. Other than that, we have other events coming up, like for my international people, there's the Rome event in September. You guys will probably see on here as well. Yep, right here. And then we have Atlanta in October as well. So a lot of cool events coming up in the next couple of months. So if you can't make it to this one, make it to maybe Atlanta if you're in the US. If you're international, you got Rome in September. Either way, just try to get to these events. All right. Well, that will be pretty much it for what I wanted to talk about here, guys, today. Oh, that's super cool. You guys can see what our friend here in the chat, Pips, Planes, and Profit. If you guys want to go, two people that aren't in Akashics can slide. All right, so awesome. Appreciate you guys. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. I'll see you guys on the live sessions tomorrow. I do Spanish in the mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays we do English. So depending if you guys are bilingual, if you only speak English, you guys know how to plug in. All right, so I'll see you guys on there if you're a part of the Akashics family. If not, make sure that you guys hit the links that are going to be in the description of this live and throughout all of my YouTube videos. If you guys want to get started with Akashics, you guys will be able to see my enrollment link on here in just a bit. But yeah, with that said, hope you guys have an amazing rest of your Sunday. Hope you have a great week. And as always, guys, let's